Hello and welcome to another episode of me learning Intune. And I say learning this time because I finally feel like I'm starting to get a grasp on how this platform works a little bit more. Um, and I say I'm getting a grasp on it. However, it's not because I'm really getting anything else to work. Um, I'm still having the same struggles I had before, but I'm realizing that a lot of them are more because of the limitations of Intune and not necessarily the limitations of my own knowledge. The reason I feel like this is because last week I conducted a couple interviews with industry experts at Intune and found out a lot of the issues I was running into are really limitations. To talk through a couple things, one thing I was running into, which was just driving me insane, is the speed at which the profiles would get deployed to the computers. It just seemed like it took forever to get the profiles down, like if I was making a change to a configuration profile. Conversely, in Jamf Pro, if I was to change a configuration profile, this is a process that would really only take a couple minutes. Usually less than a minute, usually like 10 seconds. Whereas here, it was taking what seemed like hours, like longer than I could really wait. The official word I got from someone who used to work at Microsoft, specifically with Mac deployments to Mac computers, was that it takes up to 24 hours for those profiles to deploy. And actually, they would just say 24 hours. So if they were working with someone, they'd make the changes and they'd say, okay, check back tomorrow once this change goes through, which is ridiculous. But yeah, so I guess that's why everything's working slow. It's not because of my server or anything. That's just how the back end of Intune works. Now, when it comes to zero-touch provisioning, so something I was worried about is the ability to set up like a normal, what I would call zero-touch provisioning workflow. Because you really need to control the order that these applications are installed. And specifically, we need to make sure that dep notify is installed right away, and the script that brings up dep notify, the starter script, is also deployed right away as well. And there's no way to do that. There's no way to control the order of these installs. It just kind of happens randomly. So what I'm going to try doing is if I go into this package, maybe I can't do it here. But first of all, I need to make sure that the script to run dep notify is deployed after the actual dep notify package is deployed, right? That's important. There's no way to set up that dependency. However, when you upload a package, you can do a post-install script. And I think that's just the only way I'm going to be able to do this. And we'll see how it works, because if it goes at the end of the workflow, it's not going to do much to show what's happening. But yeah, I have to select a package file first. So I have to download that dep notify package. Download. Perfect. Okay. Go to next. I don't know. I'm just going to put Rocket Man here, even though I'm not the publisher. And then I can do a post-install script. Now, I'm going to need to build that script, test it probably a little bit on my computer first before diving into uploading it. But I think that's how I'm going to go through that. And just test to see how it works. Because I don't know, if this doesn't deploy at the, if it deploys at the login screen, yeah, I'm not sure how it will work once the script gets deployed. I'm not sure how any of this will work. Maybe I'll write a while loop to make sure it doesn't deploy until after that. because we've done that before. This will be an experiment, probably putting too much work into basically trying to test this out. But basically saying I think any type of zero-touch provisioning screen is going to be not that great. So I also think this specific package, although I'm testing on an Intel computer, so it doesn't matter, but this specific package does require Rosetta 2 to be able to run. So if this was on an M1 Mac, I'd probably be running into another problem because I can't control the order of the installs. It's kind of a big issue to have in an MDM. Still haven't gotten File Vault to work. And I even screen shared and had someone show me how to set it up the right way. And it just doesn't work. So, don't know why that's happening. But I swear there can't be any other way to set this up. And what it's doing is so weird too, because it should be prompting me either at login or log out, or even during the setup assistant. I have that set up as well. But what I'm seeing is I just get this random pop-up, like when I'm logged into the computer, that says FD setup needs to file vault encrypt your Mac. And that is so weird, and I've never seen that. And I think what they're doing is deploying the command at the wrong time or something. I don't know. I don't really understand what they're doing. I've never seen it happen. It doesn't work. I can click allow. I can click not allow. It doesn't file vault encrypt the computer. The computer never gets file vault encrypted. So I don't know what's happening there. Yeah, I'm kind of looking through this and trying to figure out what else there is that I need to test. I think what I need to do for this video is come up with some good criteria for what I want to set up to test to show like how Jamf Pro does it versus Microsoft Intune. Yeah, this is kind of the hard part where now I start to have most of the pieces in place in terms of testing and stuff like that, and now it's just like trying to make a concise video to show all of this, to show people what I've kind of learned through trying this platform, trying to set up stuff via this platform. So in spirit of this, I feel like I should be setting this up in front of you, but I feel like I need to, in order for my own mind to process things, to write it down, to create a script, I need to actually get outside of the internal dialogue that I'm having with the audience and just write for a bit. And then maybe come back and have something that will look like an outline for this video. So I think I'm going to do that right now. Welcome back, my loyal fans. Probably shouldn't say that, that's a little presumptuous. Welcome back, whoever seems to be tuning in for my random rants on a Sunday night, because I hurt my ankle and apparently have nothing better to do than put together an outline of my Intune review that I'm going to make at some point. As you can see, I put a lot of stuff together, kind of have a little bit better of an idea of how this presentation is going to go, or this review, I should say, is going to go. All right, so first thing I'm going to start out with is just going over the Intune interface, and I'm going to focus on the specific points about macOS, because there's a lot to this interface that is not relevant to macOS. So we're just going to focus on the macOS portion. At some point, might get into the iOS portion. Not sure if I'm going to do that yet. There's just so much more to talk about with macOS, so I wanted to focus on that. And then I want to go into comparing features in Jamf Pro to features in Intune, because I think that's important. There's a lot of differences here, and I really want to focus on what some of those differences are. And that's kind of where I'm starting to kind of see where my gaps in knowledge is as I'm going through here and trying to figure out, I don't know if Intune can do that or not. But what I'm seeing here is we have policies in Jamf Pro. And there's not like one specific feature in Intune that's similar to policies. You've got, so Jamf can deploy packages through policies. You can do that with Intune through apps. You can do a lot more with apps too, which we'll see further down when we get to app installers. It kind of has that functionality. But specifically, you can deploy apps through Intune. Software updates is similar to update policies. Scripts are similar to shell scripts, although I did make a note that you can only do 200 kilobytes, which might seem like not that unreasonable of a limit, but that did make it so that we can't deploy our Superman script, which we usually do. So that really changes our workflow a bit. And then there's all this stuff that's really not available through Intune. Some of this stuff is a bigger deal than others. Like, for instance, a trigger is a pretty important one for me. That's the ability to kind of control when things happen, right? So being able to have like a custom trigger or just any type of trigger, I think is important instead of just saying deploy it right away. Frequency is only available for scripts, so you can't run a policy multiple times, or like a package multiple times. You can only do a script. So that's kind of the policies part. With configuration profiles, I did kind of dig deep into all the different profiles that I use, or the payloads that I use within Jamf Pro, and compared it to what was in Intune. So I didn't look at everything. I'm just like, there's literally a ton of stuff through configuration profiles I've never even touched. I haven't needed to touch, so I didn't want to focus on those. But for the ones that I use pretty regularly, there were some key ones that I can't deploy. First of all, again, I'm still haven't got File Vault to work, so I'm not going to say that that's working, even though they have it in there. Approved kernel extensions is pretty much deprecated now, but if you're on 10.15 or earlier, it's still important. But these last three are really big, and I'm very surprised they don't have them. No SCEP profile that I could see. No certificate. You can't deploy certificates through a configuration profile, which is really big, or a network profile. That's another big one. If you want to deploy the Wi-Fi, production Wi-Fi network, you can't do that through Intune. So, really want to be pointing out some of this stuff and these limitations. Another thing I want to point out is it does take 24 hours to deploy something. And within Jamf Pro, it's almost instantaneous. So, kind of a crazy thing that people need to know about. Making some notes about things that I need to research to get some more information on. Like with Jamf, we can deploy software updates through an MDM command. I don't know if there's a comparable feature like that within Intune. So I'm going to ask my experts some of those questions. Restricted software, there's not really a comparable features, but within Mac apps, we can deploy Mac App Store apps. I did figure that out finally, even though there's no like real selection to do it. It is limited though. You can't really control it as much as Jamf Pro. Like for instance, in Jamf Pro, I can have multiple different deployments of the same app, so I can have duplicate apps. That's a lot more important for iOS. There's tons of different use cases of being able to do that. For macOS, probably not quite as important. I don't know if I've ever deployed a duplicate app, but it is a lot more limited in that way. Now, if you look at Jamf app installers, Microsoft Intune does have a way to deploy a certain set of apps in a similar way where it deploys the latest version automatically. You don't have to upload them or anything, but it's only these 9 Microsoft apps. Comparatively, Jamf Pro has 181 titles through app installers that can be deployed automatically with the latest version. They provide all 9 that are listed here, but they also provide an additional 8 apps that are created by Microsoft that Intune doesn't even deploy. So it has a more comprehensive list of Microsoft apps than Intune has, which is kind of funny. But then they have a full 181 software titles, so it's not even comparable. I wanted to put this list here just because I think sometimes people don't know how much 181 is. It's like, that's a lot. So yeah, not really even close to what Microsoft's offering with their meager offer there. Okay. I don't know if there's a similar way of doing patch reporting through Intune, and that's another thing I'm going to ask questions about, including smart and static groups. I haven't really figured out how grouping works here. There is this groups tab, so maybe I could try, always curious to see. We can see, okay, the group type can be security, test. Oh, yeah, this looks pretty simplistic. I'm not seeing, I think these are like user groups, not really device groups. Maybe I'll just make another one and let's do Microsoft Office 365. We'll call it test again. Oh, it's got to be. Okay. Okay, here's something that looks a little bit more like this. But these are all user attributes. So I don't think there's any device compliance rules, but I'll ask the experts to see if that's possible. Okay, so pre-stage enrollments. This is something that I think is important to point out too, because Intune has something very similar to Jamf Pro when it comes to pre-stage, but it's limited in some weird ways. Like you can't prevent users from enabling activation lock. You can't automatically advance through the setup assistant. You can't create a managed local administrator account. You can't like skip the account creation, which is all the stuff you can do through here, or make it a standard user, or pre-fill that account information based on logging in. You can't deploy certificates, which you can't deploy any sort of certificates, which is weird, or enrollment packages. And deploying configuration profiles, you have to deploy all of them, which creates a lot of problems if you're doing enrollment. So really limited here in terms of what we can do through a pre-stage enrollment, especially when we're looking at setting up that like zero-touch provisioning, like really nice workflow. So that's kind of the outline I have so far, but I think the thing I'm going to add to this is going to be like going through workflows. Let's see what I have here. We'll go macOS updates too. Two really important ones for people. Security policies. Yeah, and then I think we'll look at the API. I'm gonna move this around and have this before I go over all the differences. But I'm not sure yet. Maybe it's good to talk about the differences and then see how those differences affect some of our main workflows. I'll probably throw our temporary admin script in there as well. And talk. And I think the API should be like up here. I just don't have. I'm trying to get one of my employees to work on that because I just don't want to do it. I don't want to learn a new API just to do a review video. Plus, my colleagues are smarter than me. Okay. And then, yeah, I have a ton of questions for my poor experts here that I'll be sending them. But I'll probably have to send a lot of these. There's a lot of questions. Like, for instance, the last call I did with someone, we spent 30 minutes answering one question, although it was a loaded question. But yeah, so I might have to just send these ahead of time, have them answer it, and then do a couple interview style ones just for time's sake of some of the more interesting questions. But yeah, so this is what I've been working on. I think we're starting to get somewhere. Eventually this will look pretty good. I'll be able to put everything together, kind of walk through setting these different things up, and have what I think will be a really good, fair review of Microsoft Intune. So thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you on the next one.